Happy New Year, one and all! To celebrate the start of this new year, I'm going to be talking about beginners. And I'm going to talk about these mistakes that beginners will make. And hopefully with this video, you can avoid those mistakes. First one I'm going to talk about is lighting, because lighting is so important and can often be neglected by beginners. Most think that simply having a great camera will then equal to great footage, but that is not so. It's actually great lighting that makes great footage. One thing I will say is do not, under any circumstances, use ceiling lighting if you can avoid it. What I mean by that is literally just the lights in the ceiling of any room. Do not use those as your light source. Always use external lights like I've got. I've got a light there, I've got a light over there, I've got some lights going around the room, got some backlights over there. And the reason we don't use ceiling lighting is that you have little to no control over the quality of light. They can give your subject raccoon eyes, so just shadows underneath the eyes, and you can't get a proper contrast of light when using ceiling lighting. Also, don't just blast your subject with front light coming like almost directly from the camera, because then that just makes the whole image look flat and not very cinematic. I would recommend using a big soft light as your key light that is put slightly to the side and slightly above your subject and your camera and pointed down at your subject. Use a backlight to help separate your subject from the background, and also make your background darker or make it a different color to help add depth and contrast to your videos. One other thing I've noticed about beginners is that they use wrong frame rates. Now in the UK, the standard frame rate is 25 frames per second, or at least as far as I remember, and in the US the standard is 24 frames per second. Now most feature films are shot in 24 frames per second. This is because the human eye sees things in 24 frames a second, so that helps sell the illusion and make it a bit more natural and easy for the eye to digest. That, coupled with a shutter speed double that, or as close as we can get on most cameras, which is about 1/50, will then add a realistic amount of motion blur to your movement. And again, it will help just make it seem more natural, and it will sell the illusion. I wouldn't recommend shooting in 30 frames per second on your normal camera, because that will make it look either like a soap opera or like a news broadcast, because that's more or less what they're shot in. However, one reason we shoot in higher frame rates is so that in post we can slow it down to 24 frames per second, and then that will create a nice, smooth, slow motion effect. For example, when shooting, say, a wedding video and you want to get that dreamy slow-mo look, you could shoot at 60 frames per second and then bring it down to 24 in editing. And when shooting these kind of videos, I always shoot in 25 frames per second because, again, that's the UK standard. And it's also what my camera normally does. Mistake number 3 is lens choices. Always select your lenses depending on what you're planning to shoot. For instance, use a wide-angle lens like a 16mm for stuff like real estate, architecture, and landscapes. Don't use wide-angle lenses when shooting people's faces, because then that will distort the way the face looks. Now, I've heard that between 70mm and 100mm focal length is the most flattering for the human face. Anything above 100mm is normally used when you want to compress a lot of space into your frame, or make something appear closer than it actually is. Or of course, if you can't get physically close to your subject. So right now I've got my 24 to 85mm zoom lens on, and it's zoomed into about, 35mm, which is a pretty good focal length for doing like talking head stuff like this. So adapt your lens choices to whatever you're planning to shoot, and don't just get lazy and use the same focal length or lens for everything. When starting out, everyone seems to forget about audio, and when we do that, we immediately start off at a disadvantage and we set up to make bad videos or films. Sound can make or break a video or a film, so don't you dare skimp on the audio. Good audio equipment is up there with good lenses and good lighting. It's the triforce of good video production. A tip I would give is don't rely on the in-camera microphone. Always use an on-camera mic, like I'm doing at the moment, or a lapel mic, which goes around here, or a podcast-like microphone that I'm using at the moment, or a shotgun or boom mic. Keep your mic close, about 6 to 14 inches. Obviously that's not always a possibility, but try your best, as this is the range you'll get the best audio quality from. I'd also recommend setting your in-camera audio settings to between -18 and -6. Any quieter than that and you'll start to get some fuzzy audio. Any higher than that and the audio will start to peak and get all distorted and just sound awful. And take the time to do sound design in post. Level out your audio tracks, add sound effects and music, and that will really help your video pack a punch. Another thing I've noticed when starting out is that beginners just make videos for the sake of making videos, and there's no story at all. So this is about story or lack thereof. Always create a video that serves a purpose and tells a story. A good way to do this is to first of all figure out what emotion you want to convey and what emotion you want the audience to feel. So do some pre-planning, do a shot list, and shoot to edit, meaning have your final edit in mind when you're planning and shooting. All of this will help you get the emotion you want. And of course, figure out what kind of video content you're passionate about and go from there. But always have a story in mind. And last but not least, bloated or unfinished edits. I'm going to say this once. Only use the best footage you have. Don't shoot for 5 minutes and then use all of that 5 minutes in your final video. Get your shots with the best lighting, the best composition, the best movement, and only use those. Now believe me, I have made this mistake many times when I first started making videos. But over time I learned that a 30-second video of only the cream of the crop of what I shot, when put together, is a hell of a lot more engaging and interesting than a 5-minute video of your mediocre clips all slapped together. In the edit, always put your best foot forward with the clips you're most proud of. Learning to create engaging and concise videos that tell a story and have a clear purpose will get people and clients excited and want to work with you. So to sum up, do pre-planning. Have an emotional goal in mind you want to evoke from your audience. Have a clear purpose that the video serves. Shoot to edit and always overshoot. And finally, take the time in the edit to trim the fat. Only use your best clips and put them together in a way that tells a concise and purposeful story. And that's it, that's the end of the video. I hope this has been helpful to you in any way, shape or form. If you liked it, give it a like, comment, subscribe, all that usual YouTube palaver. And lastly, stay safe, stay creative, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!